Hello guys, welcome back to my channel. I hope you're doing very well. I'm going to be rounding up game week 2 of the Premier League, apart from Liverpool Palace because that is tomorrow on the Monday night. But let's start by focusing on Brentford 4, Man United 0. Unbelievable. Going into the game, Erik ten Hag was under massive pressure after their loss at home at Old Trafford against Brighton. And going into the game, I admired Erik ten Hag for trying to stick to his principles by picking short players and by continuously trying to play out from the back. But against a physical Brentford team, it didn't work at all. It completely backfired. Brentford were excellent in terms of pressing at the right moments, putting pressure on De Gea to go long, and Brentford were absolutely fantastic. They completely bullied Man United through set pieces and also the way they pressed, like I said. Their goals were fantastic. They scored a goal from a set piece, I believe, and also the counter-attack goal where Tony made a phenomenal pass to Mbeumo for the fourth. Brentford was superb and Man United were just completely scared. I think when the first goal went in, where De Gea made that massive mistake, it just completely set the tone for the rest of the game and Man United looked scared. They looked worried and scared and they were completely bullied by Brentford. And, growing up, it was Man United who were the dominant team. And any team that even played well at Old Trafford, they were almost commended and did well. I mean, to get a point at Old Trafford back in the day was a phenomenal effort. To grow up in my life now watching football and Man United and to see them slowly fall to this level where they're now scared and completely bullied by Brentford is astonishing. But it just shows that even with the amount of money in football, even with phrases like the top six, where the same top six teams finish in the top six in the Premier League, and with the amount of budgets that all the teams have, I think Brentford spent about maybe 20 odd million in this transfer window, and their squad combined costs about 55 million, whereas Man United's is £500 million. It's very great to see actually that if you recruit well, and you have the right spirit and your whole club are aligned in the same principles and values, you can still compete with the likes of Man United who, yes, they're nowhere near as good as they were a decade ago, but they still have a phenomenal global reach and they're still a commercial juggernaut in the world. So the fact that Brentford can compete with them and batter them is great to see. As a Reading fan, it does make me dream that one day Reading, okay, they probably will never win the Premier League, but with the right recruitment, they can eventually get to a position where Brentford are, where they play great football, they have a fantastic stadium, they've got a charismatic manager, and they recruit well. And it almost seems like it doesn't matter who Brentford sell because they know they can buy a replacement that will be almost better than them. So amazing effort from Brentford, but for Man United, a total disaster. And I don't think too much blame should be on Erik ten Hag because Man United have so many problems this last decade. But the tactics were a little bit poor at times, and Erik ten Hag needs to do a lot of work to turn this around for Man United. Of course, Man City beat Bournemouth by 4-0. I think the only surprise really in this game is the fact that Erling Haaland didn't score. He only got, I think, less than 10 touches, but one of them was an assist. So for FPL fans, who everyone seemed like Captain Haaland, he got some return, but disappointing that he didn't score. But for Bournemouth, this sort of game won't define them in the Premier League. It's when they play Aston Villa at home where they won, or it's when they play Fulham and Wolves and Southampton and Everton at home. That's what will define the Cherries, not when they go to Man City. It's kind of just a hit and hope game, really. But for Man City, comfortable win from them. A lot harder next Sunday when they play Newcastle away. So I'm looking forward to see how they deal with that test. I think their proper first real test this season. Although, to be fair, West Ham was a difficult fixture, but Haaland and Man City just made it look so easy. But Newcastle will be a tough test for Man City. Arsenal backed up their really good performance against Crystal Palace on Friday night by beating Leicester by 4-2. The goals they conceded were sloppy, especially their first goal they conceded, but overall Arsenal were dominant. They created far more chances, and Gabriel Jesus again had a very good game, but this time backed it up with 2 goals. Very good, well-taken goals from him, and really he should have actually had a hat-trick. He had a couple of really good chances after he got his second goal, but for Arsenal and Arsenal fans, they must feel so enlightened and inspired by this performance that they can continue to progress throughout the rest of the season. They look really strong. But for Leicester, They haven't still made any outfield signings of yet. They signed Alex Smithies, which I think is a really strange signing because he's a good Championship goalkeeper, but for Cardiff, he wasn't completely outstanding. And they already have Everson, who was very good for Preston last season, and Ward, who's kind of just been a backup goalkeeper for Leicester. So I don't understand their recruitment strategy. And I think actually the main thing for them will be keeping the likes of Wesley Fofana and Tielemans and Vardy at the club. Although I think Vardy will stay. Fofana looks like he's set to leave, so that's going to be a massive loss for Leicester. They're running out of time to make new signings. Southampton 2, Leeds 2. I think it's quite a prominent game actually early on in terms of the relegation battle. Maybe not so much for Leeds, but especially for Saints. The manner of which they came back from 2 goals down, I was really impressed. And the key thing here was the substitutions. Ralph took a massive gamble and brought on Mara, Armstrong and Aribo. And all the substitutions made a really big impact, especially Aribo, who looks like a really good signing for Southampton. I was surprised when I saw the team sheet that Aribo didn't start, but he got himself his first goal for Southampton. And he, like I said, he looks like a really good signing. Mara with an amazing pass to Carl Walker-Peters for Carl Walker-Peters to get his first goal of the season for Saints. So a really good fight back from Saints. I think they would have expected a win given that they're at home against Leeds. And Leeds aren't a bad team, but I don't think they're going to finish mid-table in the Premier League, right? So I think Saints were expecting a win, but I think the manner of which they came back from 2 goals down would have pleased a lot of Saints fans. But for Leeds, really, really poor result, especially given they were 2-0 up. And they were the better team in the first half. The manner of which they lost lost control really of the game will be worrying for Leeds fans. And also what will be more worrying for Leeds is the fact that Bamford came off injured after half an hour. He basically didn't play last season. And the fact he's already got a slight injury now is a big concern for Leeds. And I think it does highlight that they do need at least one more striker before the transfer window closes. Aston Villa beat Everton by 2-1, and Aston Villa looked really good in this game, particularly Ollie Watkins and Ings up front. I do think Aston Villa are a better team when they both play together. They just seem to have a really good link-up play that none of the Aston Villa players really seem to have. And then you also had Tyrone Mings coming back in the team who looked solid alongside Diego Carlos, but he did get injured, so that's a concern for Aston Villa. But for Frank Lampard's Everton, I think, again, this game just highlights the fact they desperately, desperately need a striker. The fact they lost Richarlison, Calvert-Lewin is out injured, they've got no real options up front. And it's being reported that Chelsea are interested in Anthony Gordon. And apparently they've bid £40 million. I saw that on Sky Sports and I just couldn't really believe that. So if they lose Gordon as well, that'd be a massive blow for Everton. But like I said, Everton desperately need a striker. Although I will say that I think Conor Cody is a smart signing, especially if they look to play with 3 centre-backs. Conor Cody has got so much experience now in the Premier League, especially playing as that middle centre-back, and he'll bring a lot of personality and charisma to this Everton team, which is desperately needed. And then 2 0-0s to talk about. With Brighton, it's kind of really the same story with them. The fact that they created so many chances against Newcastle and they couldn't score. Fair play to Nick Pope, though. Amazing performance from him. Although I will say he did let one shot slip through his fingers and then Kieran Trippier had to clear off the line. But, you know, he will be forgiven because he's such a top shot stopper in the Premier League. So Brighton, I guess just the main thing for them is the fact they need a finisher. Especially now with Maupay set to leave. They need a striker to come in to replace him. I'm surprised that Undev didn't really get a showing for Brighton, but their Japanese signing, Mito, I think his name is, he came on and looked really, really good on the left-hand side. Fantastic signing for Brighton, but he's not a goal scorer. He's just going to be another one of these Brighton players that creates so many chances for Danny Welbeck or Undav, and Brighton are just going to continue to struggle to score goals. They need that striker to put the ball in the back of the net. But other than that, Brighton look a really good, functioning, amazing team in the Premier League. Then for Wolves against Fulham, Wolves were the best team in this game, and I think from their point of view, it will be 2 points dropped given the fact that they're at home against Fulham. They haven't won in the Premier League now since April, if you go back to last season, and they created so many chances, like I said. They really should have won this game comfortably. But Fulham, almost right at the end, nicked it through Mitrovic's penalty. It was a poor penalty, really, and it would have been completely undeserved. But I think even despite the penalty miss, for Fulham to go away from home and get your first point away from home and keep a clean sheet is really encouraging for Fulham. Then on to Sunday's games, and the first game on Sunday you had Forest beating West Ham by 1-0, and I'm not surprised that Forest started this game really well. The fact that it was their first home game in the Premier League for over 20 years, they were always going to start with a lot of energy, and they did. But I was really impressed with the way West Ham were able to fight back and match Forest's energy and then grow as the game went on. I mean, West Ham, I think, were the better team in the first half, but then Forest took the lead. In terms of the disallowed goal, I do think it was a foul because some could argue it was a coming together, but it's the fact that Antonio, you can clearly see his hands move upwards and you can clearly see a shove on the Forest defender. So I do think that was a foul. And then Forest go at the other end and score. And Awoni, I think that's how you pronounce his name. I apologise if it's not. The whole first half, certainly, he looked threatening and got into some good areas, and then he did well for his movement. He was in the right place at the right time to just bundle the ball in the back of the net, and amazing time for Forest to score to make it 1-0. But in the second half, I was really impressed with the way West Ham fought back, and like I said, they grew into the game. They hit the crossbar twice, they had a penalty missed, and certainly, at the very least, West Ham deserved a point. But Forest, and particularly Dean Henderson, were outstanding, and you know, a lot's been made about Forest signings and them potentially doing a Fulham. I don't see that being the case because I think Steve Cooper's a very good defensive manager. I think Forest have made really smart signings, and they've still got players that played in the Championship that I think are Premier League quality, like McKenna, like Worrell, and Brennan Johnson and Ryan Yates. But I think out of all of Forest's signings, Dean Henderson, for me, will be the best one, because when he played for Sheffield United in the Premier League, he prevented so many goals for the Blades, and when he left and Ramsdale came in, Sheffield United instantly looked worse in the goalkeeping department. So I think Dean Henderson, he's just got that character and that personality to thrive as a goalkeeper, and I just think he'll prevent so many goals for Forest, and I do think he'll be their best signing, and I can see Forest staying up, and this is a really good starting point for Forest, for sure. Then finally, you have Chelsea 2, Tottenham 2, a really entertaining game at Stamford Bridge. I mean, watching the game and looking at the stats, Chelsea were the dominant team, but the key thing for Tottenham was the fact they were always in the game. Even at 1-0 and 2-1 down, Tottenham just one goal away from equalising and really getting back into the game. But Chelsea, first of all from them, despite having a lack of a focal point, I mean, it's clear they need a striker, their play in the final third was outstanding. Their movement and passing was excellent. Koulibaly, what a goal from him. I mean, he looks like a really good signing from Napoli, I believe. And then Sterling continues to make excellent runs into the box. But like I said, they just lack that centre forward. But Chelsea were fantastic. But like I said, the fact they were only 1-0 up and 2-1 up, it always meant Tottenham were in the game. And then Tottenham, you know, they were lucky with some decisions. Even though it would have been so harsh for VAR to draw the foul back because Bentancur, I think, tackled Havertz, that was a foul. So, I mean, there was controversy there. And then with the corner as well, I mean, it's clear that Romeu just pulls Cucurella's hair. I cannot believe he wasn't sent off for that. Unbelievable. But fair play to Tottenham. They stayed in the game. Kane got the header and the equaliser. And overall, this is definitely a point game for Tottenham, given that they went away from home against their top six rivals and they managed to snatch a point. I hope you enjoyed this Premier League roundup. I really appreciate you watching this. Let me know in the comments below what you thought of the Premier League games this weekend, and don't forget to like and subscribe, and I hope to see you all in the next video. Thank you very much.